Something I watched this week that's not necessarily even a new show. I watched an episode of Weedakit, which I think has been around now for a handful of years on Hulu. I think I saw one of the episodes years and years ago, like when it was actually kind of new. I watched one of the episodes this week just because it is a very interesting topic, and it's actually in the news. It's something we'll probably talk about here later. Is just like weed in general, and the stigmas, the everything behind it. I'm gonna change it up. What if I lean forward? So I watched this episode. I think it's episode 2, and it's the one with about veterans. And that episode kind of it hit me on the heartstrings. It really, really did. It kind of fucked me up. I have to admit, I did kind of cry for part of it, and it's just I really don't understand what it is with like the U.S. in particular and the federal government to have such a stigma against weed. Like, I don't think that weed is necessarily a cure-all, like some people do believe, but I think compared to everything else, I don't get the reason behind it. Like, I mean, I know like PTSD for soldiers in general is really, really rough and all this stuff, but I didn't totally know how extreme some of the stuff was with the VA, and this episode kind of opened my eyes to it. My uncle's a Marine vet. He fought in Afghanistan when I was a kid. And stuff like I have vets in my family, so it is very, very interesting, and it's a rough topic because some of the stuff they talked about was how these soldiers will go to the VA for help, and they'll do whatever it is they're basically given, and they'll be prescribed all these pills, and it's like painkillers, opioids, neurological drugs to kind of numb their emotions and stuff like this, and all this stuff to basically make them feel numb. And it was so sad because like some of the stories from actual vets and people they talked to, and the stuff that they had them do, and how like these vets are taking all these drugs, and then they keep upping the dosage and how much, and they're taking, like, this one guy I think was taking like 30 something pills a day and all this shit. And it's just like, one, I don't understand why people think that that is good. Like, big pharma and everything along those lines is rough enough around the edges that it's like, I don't know why people trust it so much to begin with, because all they want is profit. But at the same time, for me, like, there's definitely benefits to it at times, but it's like we're the only country besides New Zealand that advertises medicines and then like on TV and in commercials. Like 80, I think it's like 75% of all advertising in the US is pharmaceutical industry stuff. And then it's like all these side effects for all these drugs, and especially in America, it's like the way that they think to fix an issue is just to take a pill, and it's very, very fucked up. And I've never, even at a very young age, was aware of this, and I thought it didn't make sense. And I think that's one reason why within the past like year or two I've gotten more knowledge and wanted to learn about like health and fitness and supplements and exercise, and like know the human body a little better, so that I don't end up having to deal with this shit when I'm older. Like, and it's with them, it's a whole different story where it's like they're throwing all these drugs down these fucking veterans' throats to basically just make them feel better, but it takes away who they really are, and they just become like a drugged up zombie version of themselves, which is sad, and it's not a way to live by any means. And the amount of the amount of vets that also commit suicide is absolutely fucking ridiculous. And part of it is dealing with PTSD, but at the same time, part of it probably doesn't help when it comes to all these different drugs that they throw in their system. They might be throwing off their endocrine system and their hormone levels and all this stuff that one just makes it easier to be depressed and making it harder for the body to regulate themselves, or let alone get addicted to some strong opioid to then have to rely on it and have withdrawals and like all this shit, and how they can't feel happy without these meds. And it's just like the whole idea of that is just so fucked up. And then you can't even study the effects of marijuana. You might be able to now. I know the episode was a little older and some stuff's relaxed a little bit over the past like 5 years, but still, it's like not allowing weed to be even studied to see the effects of it. But then you also have places that have medical marijuana legal, but then the VA won't allow it to be used because it's still a Schedule 1 drug and illegal federally. So they won't allow veterans, even though it's probably 100% a better alternative. They won't allow them to use it, even though it would make their lives better and not as damaging. And it's just like I said, I don't think weed's necessarily cure all by any means. I think it can be used recreationally. I think it can do all this stuff, and I think there are plenty of positive benefits. But it's just like everything. It's like I don't necessarily think smoking every day is, depending on your situation, unless you actually need it, just a regular person smoking every day, I don't know if you're necessarily going to get a net positive in the long run. Like, too much of anything is bad. Like, drinking a gallon of this a day is going to be bad in some way or another. Like, there's no way around it. Let alone it'd be very expensive. But, you know what I mean? Like, it's just too much of anything is not necessarily good. So I think there is a push and pull to marijuana in general, but it's like, my thing is the pros for it definitely outweigh the cons in so many levels, on the amount of people it could help with veterans, cancer patients, depression, anxiety, just everything. It's like, to me, I don't understand why it's not legalized medically, like countrywide, let alone recreationally. But it's just like, it to me, it just doesn't make sense. And seeing and hearing these guys' stories and how some of them, it's actually changed their lives to be able to smoke and go without VA like guidance and requirements, and basically losing their VA benefits because they rather live a life better than what they had by smoking. It's sad that then these men don't get their benefits that they deserve as a ex-military, and all because of that one reason. And then not only that, but they're trying to choose between live a life where you're not yourself and you're drugged up all the time, or live a life where you smoke a little weed every now and again and you're able to actually live a normal life. So it's just I feel like it's a stupid topic. It's not a stupid topic, but I think it's stupid that there's even a discussion against like studying weed, and let alone like trying to find ways to use it or restrict people from using it for positive benefits, even if there hasn't been studies to prove it necessarily. Just seeing the benefits it's had on a handful of people's lives that are veterans are probably a lot larger than just a handful. You would think it'd be worth a shot, because like suicide and overdose and shit with opioids, both are fucking ridiculous, and it's terrible that it's such an issue in today, just in the U.S. and in general.